Hi everyone, I hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to another live lesson with me, Matt Stead. In fact, I guess I should say a live Q&A because we're going to do things slightly differently again today. Just before Christmas, I think it was, we had a really nice Q&A session all about, I'm trying to remember what that one was all about, but it went really well. I think it was learning songs by heart or something. And I thought we'd do another one, but this time, because we're in the new year, I'd make it all about our learning and practicing. So what I've done is, over the last few weeks, I've asked students and friends and you guys to all send me in any questions that you've got in advance to get us started. So we've got some brilliant questions. Thank you to everyone that sent them in. And they cover all sorts of things, but I think all of the questions are pretty much universal, so I think you'll all learn a lot from them. At least I hope so. Now make sure you've got live chat rather than top chat enabled on YouTube, and then you can comment along and ask questions as we go along as well, because I want this to feel really like a chat and bring some of you guys in from the comments and see if you've got any questions as we go. Couple of things to tell you about just before we get started. So in our next live lesson isn't going to be for a little while. We tend to do them every fortnight, but obviously I'm going to be away on my cruise where I'm teaching ukulele next week and the week after. So our next live lesson is going to be on the 19th of March at 3:30, and I thought we'd do something really classic to get us back into the swing of things. So we're going to look at a lovely version of Night and Day by Cole Porter. Such a gorgeous song. We're going to look at chromatic movement in chords. We're going to look at how to play chords up the fretboard. And we're going to look at how to jazz comp as well in terms of strumming, which I think will be really, really interesting. So that's going to be our next live lesson. Put it in your diaries, Wednesday, 19th of March. I'll obviously put it on the website and Facebook beforehand as well, so you've all got it. I don't think I'm going to get time for another Beatles lesson before I go away. So there'll be a new one when I get back at the start of March. But if you haven't already seen it, do check out the Across the Universe new lesson in the Beatles course, and that's a lovely fingerstyle arrangement. So I hope you're all keeping well. How is it where you are? Pam's quite chilly. I feel absolutely cold. I got this big thick corduroy shirt on today and I'm still cold here. I'm sure I'll warm up later on, so I'm looking forward to a bit of Caribbean sunshine. I tell you, I've never ever been away in February, so it'll be a nice change to get some winter sunshine. So yeah, thanks guys. Beach is over there in Portugal. I've got a question from Beach in a bit and one from Michelle, so brilliant. And Pam's saying she loves Cole Porter. Fantastic. Yeah, chattering teeth, Shell. Yeah, me too. Cole Porter was such a brilliant songwriter. I love that kind of great American songbook with, you have writers like Gershwin and Jerome Kern and Cole Porter, not forgetting Duke Ellington. Just like, oh, it's just amazing. Oh, Beach has got 20 degrees C, and then Sandra's got -7, so it couldn't be more different. My goodness. It's all happening. Fran's had snow flurries. It feels a bit like the weather's gone mad, doesn't it? Karen was telling me it was like -37 or something in Canada where she is, which is just like, I can't even comprehend that. The weather here only ever gets to about -6, is about as low as it goes, so yeah. 25 degrees C in Florida. David, I'm looking forward to experiencing that weather soon. Fantastic. So we've also got worksheets to go along with this, which are from the structured learning worksheets I did last August. I thought, rather than me just talking through all these, which would be a bit like a boring PowerPoint presentation, we've all been on those away days at work, right, where everyone just falls asleep. I've made them available, so have a read through them at your own leisure. And if we get time after all the questions, I'll cover some of these. And all this stuff will come up within the questions. I'm absolutely sure of it anyway. But I think you'll find these sheets really useful because it's got lots of tips on learning things like not being a magpie, recording your progress, regular practice. And it's even got suggestions of some kind of example lessons where you can really think about your learning and break it down into small chunks. So do have a look through these. And as I say, if we get time at the end, we'll come back to these, but we'll probably cover it. Yeah, I know, Karen. We'll probably cover it in the lesson as well. Hi, Linda. Linda, I don't know if I ever told you I used to work in Keynsham at a little insurance company called Help Hire back in the day, and then they moved to Bath in the end. But yeah, sorry, a small world, isn't it? Okay, so let's bring on our first question. I'm not going to type them up and bring them on screen. I'm just going to read them out from my iPad. But if anyone needs a reminding of them, let us know. So the first couple of questions came from Sheila McAtish over on Oahu. And I don't think Sheila's able to join us today because the time difference, I think it would be the middle of the night there. But she's going to watch this back later on. So thanks, Sheila. And she has asked the two questions. Sometimes I wonder whether I'm stretching it a bit too far on a piece or skill. How do you advise a student who is struggling in this area? I don't want to give up, but I also don't want to be discouraged. And I think that's a really good question, isn't it? So sometimes you can get stuck on a key skill and it can really upset you, and it can also just be quite painful and frustrating. First things first, I would always say if you're experiencing any sort of pain, Sheila, it's probably not what you're getting at, but just in case you are experiencing any sort of pain from stretches or bar chords or anything like that, just ease off it for a little bit. That'd be absolutely fine, and come back to it later on. And I think that's really key. I like that. Sorry, Lisa just said, hi, Teach. Hi, Lisa. So I think the key is try not to get stuck on any one key skill. You can watch my videos on various skills and techniques. And if you're really stuck, get in touch because I might be able to find a way to make it easier for you. Sometimes there's things we can do to personally make it easier. But don't feel afraid to just quit for something temporarily and come back to it later on. I think that's really important. Oh, thanks, Kev. That's my mate, Kev Melcock. Thanks, mate. So, yeah, feel free to come back to it later on. I'll give you an example. So, bar chords. Everyone hates bar chords, right, when you're first starting out on uke, because they can actually cause pain and they're quite tough to do where you're going to push all those strings down at any one time. It could be quite tricky. So say you're working on bar chords and that's a technique that you've decided to study at this moment, but they're not kind of coming out perfectly. They might be a bit buzzy, or they're just not quite clean. What I would say is don't give up on the piece of music or repertoire you're learning with those. Try and take all my advice and that of other teachers to make it that little bit easier. So things like bar chords, trying to get your finger as close to the metal fret as possible. Trying to use the lower part of your finger because that's where the strength is and not just your upper part, which will create a kind of curve. And trying to keep that wrist straight. But if it's still not perfect, don't sweat it because these things take time. Bar chords I often get asked about, and they can take 3 or 4 years, and I know that can sound so frustrating. That doesn't mean you won't be able to do bar chords until that time, and some people might be able to get them more quickly, but to perfect them, it takes a lot of time and practice. So what I would say is don't be discouraged. Maybe just practice one bar chord, just as an example, each time you play. So say you're playing a piece of music, just standard, let's just say it's C, F and G. Every time you then come to play a C chord in any song, you'll try it with the bar chord at the 3rd fret. So that's like a B flat, move 2 higher. That means you're still getting relief from the bar chord when you go to the other 2 chords, but you're getting a little bit of practice. And I believe in cyclical learning. If you keep coming back to a key skill, each time you come back to it, it will be a little bit easier. So try not to get discouraged and don't get stuck on any one thing. Come back to it and just know that it will become easier with time. A lot of those bar chords, a lot of things on the ukulele when I started, I thought I'd never be able to do. And now, bosh, you know, without thinking it, I can put my fingers in the right place and it sounds good. So take your time. And Sheila has a secondary question where she says, any tips on singing and playing slightly more advanced pieces, especially transitioning from the verse to the bridge? And we've got a similar question on this later on from another student as well. But I thought let's just touch upon it now. Now, singing and strumming can be one of the hardest things to do because it's a bit like that classic thing, right? Bish! It's a bit like that classic thing, right? Of tapping your head and rubbing your tummy. Trying to do two different things at the same time can be really, really tricky, right? So we need to build up to that slowly. So what I would suggest, first of all, when you're learning a song with vocals, is simplify the rhythm to get the vocals first. So let's see. I've got a song here that we're going to look at for something later on, which was All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. We'll take that as an example. If anyone wants to strum along, it's G, D, E minor twice. We're going to do that again. So what I would do is I would actually simplify the rhythm of the ukulele first to get the vocals in. So I would maybe just do one strum on G, one on E minor. Oh, it's D, sorry, wasn't it? One on G, one on D, and one on E minor. Okay, and I would do that again. And then I wouldn't try singing, I would try humming. And it sounds ridiculous, but it really helps because you're only having to think of one extra thing, which is the rhythm of the melody rather than the actual words themselves. And you don't have to read the words, so you can look at what you're doing. So you could go do 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 do, and again da 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 da. Then I would maybe, when I'm really comfortable with that, start bringing the words in. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. 2, 3, 4. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. If you want to, next bit, A minor, G, D. There's nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. Then, when you've got that down, just start with a really basic rhythm, just down strums. Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. A minor, G, G. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Well, it's not that easy. Sorry, I didn't build that up as a joke. But hopefully you see, as you build up that kind of little progression one step at a time, thinking just the simple rhythm, then just hum the melody and then bring the lyrics in afterwards. That really helps. And then if you want to go into a full rhythm, you can note even triplets, all sorts. You'll have the melody in your head and you'll have the words in the head, and it should gel quite nicely. And also changing between sections can be one of the trickiest things, as Sheila says. So maybe going from a verse to a bridge or a bridge to a chorus. And I would practice the last line of the verse and then the first line of the chorus, and just do that over and over for a little while. The worst thing you can do, and you're going to see this with other bits of advice later on, the worst thing you can do when you're practicing is to play the whole song over and over and go wrong in the same place each time. And again, I'm talking from bitter experience there. The way I teach is basically I've learned all this bad stuff and I tell you how not to do it. That's the way I teach, basically. And I've been in that pitfall. if you do that, what happens is you create tension in your body and your mind. So when you come to that particular part in the song, you're already tense, so you're more likely to go wrong. And particularly if you're doing this at an open mic or in front of people, that's the worst thing, right, you can possibly have. So just practice the most difficult thing first. So I might practice the end of that verse. It's easy. And the first bit of the chorus. All you need is love. And I'll do it again. It's easy. All you need is love. And just practice that round and round until you can do it with your eyes closed. And then you're over the hard bit and you can bring it back in the song. And that should work really, really well. Sandra saying a German ukulele teacher has a similar approach. She squeezes in another step, just saying the words after humming the phrase. Oh, that's a nice way of doing it, Sandra. So that would be, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. To get used to the rhythm, I think that's a really nice idea as well. Yeah, fantastic. If anyone's got any other bits of advice, do pipe up, because it's really, really good. I might have forgotten something, and it's just really nice to have other people's ideas as well. Karen's saying humming works really well for me when I'm learning something, especially if it's got a tricky rhythm. And at the moment, I'm not doing private lessons, but when I used to teach Karen, she'll admit this herself, I could always tell when Karen was concentrating, because she would hum the song, even if it's chord melody, out loud. But it was really positive, because it really helped her to get the rhythm and the timing of the piece. And I think that's a fantastic thing to do. So yeah, don't be afraid to just hum. Even if you're doing an instrumental piece, you know, Ode to Joy, whatever it is, just hum the melody first and get used to it. Okay, next up, we've got some really cool questions on time signatures from Shell. And these are quite specific, but they're really cool and I think really interesting. So Shell was asking, his question has to do with how one learns to play in different time signatures. For example, if someone were to ask me to play House of the Rising Sun in 3/4 time, and again in 6/8 time, and finally in 12/8 time, I don't think what I would play would sound all that different from each other. So that's really, really interesting with those time signatures. We call these compound time signatures. Compound time signatures are basically time signatures which have groups of 3. So 3/4, 6/8, 12/8. You can divide the top number by 3. And it's all to do with something called the pulse shell. And what you want to do is bring that out in your playing. That's the real key, if you like, to kind of making things sound different in those types of time signatures. So the pulse is like the musical heartbeat in the song. It's kind of like where you do the strongest clap if you're clapping along. So in 3/4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, if you think about it, you might think that 6/8 is just 3/4 twice. But if you play a song at the same tempo, it's not quite, because the bottom number in 6/8 timing means that the notes are 8th notes, so they're going to come faster, twice as fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at the same tempo, 3/4 would be 1, 2, 3, 6/8 time, 1 and 2 and 3, and like that. So that's one difference immediately. The other thing is that 6/8 time has 2 pulses. If you're a jazz drummer, what you do is you would hit one drum on the first beat and then a different drum on the 4th beat of the 6th. I'll show you what I mean. It makes more sense when you hear it. So imagine you're a drummer and you're drumming along, and that we have 6 beats in a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What they would do is they would hit possibly the bass drum on 1, boom, and then they would hit the cymbal, tss, on the 4. That would sound like this: bum, 2, 3, tss, 5, 6, bum, 2, 3, tss, 5, 6, bum, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now that creates a different feel, and we can replicate that when we're strumming. What we can do is put a really thick strum on one. So you could do a rolled strum perhaps by rolling all of your fingers across the strings. Make it really loud and thick. And then we'd strum 1, 2, 3. And on the 4, we could do something different. We could just do a down strum with a little bit more force. So you get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it has a different feel then. You get this kind of more, especially if you start doing up strums, you get this. That 6/8 time has more flow to it, and that's the key thing in terms of the difference between 3/4 and 6/8. 3/4, one strong pulse at the start of every measure. 6/8, a strong pulse and a weak pulse. Bum, 2, 3, 5, 6. Bum, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now, in terms of your actual playing, Shell, and everyone else, it doesn't massively matter as long as you're counting in threes. The timing will work in 3/4 or 6/8 time, but it's about that feel. If you can get a strong and a weak pulse in your strumming, that could be really nice. One of my favourite ways to do 6/8 time is to finger pick, because we can come down from the G string towards the A string and then back again. So I'm going G, C, E, A, E, C, top to bottom and back again. Now the lovely thing about that is you hear two pulses, because you hear a high note on G, then the two middle notes, and a high note on A. And that puts the beats on 1, 2, 4. As opposed to 3/4, which might sound like. Verses. So that's a lovely one. Finger picking in 6/8 is really, really delightful. And 12/8 just takes that one step further. It tends to be used in kind of old country songs and things like that, country and western particularly, where there's 12 beats in a measure, so it just really lengthens things out and it makes them sound longer. So just think about adding those little dynamics when you strum, but at the same time, don't sweat it too much. You'll still sound all right if you're thinking 3/4. Now, this is a really cool question, because Shell goes on to say, and then there's All You Need Is Love. I don't have the sheet music, but according to some sources, the song has 7/4, 8/4 and 6/4 measures, as well as the standard 4/4 common time. All right, so whoa, that's really confusing. And Shell says, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but how do I go about playing that? It's a brilliant question. I love this one, Shell. Now, I've always had a problem with All You Need Is Love. I've always found something doesn't feel quite right when I play it. And it's only now that Shell has brought this to my attention that I realised that I've probably been playing it in common time the whole time without doing these little variations. I think this one's interesting. This was All You Need Is Love was originally recorded for a live broadcast. It was the very first televised satellite broadcast around the world, and in the celebration they asked the Beatles to write and perform a song. And I think because they performed it live, or they recorded it in short order, I think that's part of the reason some of the counting is a little bit wonky. Now here's the important bit of teaching, right? And try and remember this, Shell. This is the most important thing, and everyone else obviously. As long as the bottom number stays the same in a song, the way you strum and the rhythm doesn't change. So Shell was saying quite rightly, there's bits in All You Need Is Love that are 7/4, 8/4 and 6/4, but they're all 4. And the bottom number just means what type of beats. Is it crotchets or eighth notes? That's all that bottom number means. So we know we're playing crotchets, 2, 3, 4. That just means a standard 1 beat. Now, as long as that number stays the same between time signature, the feel and everything is the same, all you need to do is count and play one less beat. And the classic place in All You Need Is Love where that happens is just before it goes to the chorus. I'm just going to play it, just have a listen. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. There's nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Okay, now that bit when it gets to easy, when I played it there, I played it in normal common time. It's easy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All you need is love, and so on and so forth. But when the Beatles do it in the first verse, just for the bit where they sing, it's easy, they go to 7/4 timing. What does that mean? All you have to think about is you just count to 7 rather than 8 like you would normally. It's easy, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's nothing you can do that can't be made. And that's literally it. As long as the bottom number stays the same, you just count one less. Your playing stays exactly the same. I'll do the end to that verse one more time so you can see. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's nothing you can make that can't be made. So basically the Beatles, it's almost like they forgot about a beat. In some ways it's quite nice because it gives the song like a real forward momentum. But that's what's happening in effect. Now, if you actually played 8 beats there, it would sound fine anyway. It's just if we're being really pedantic and we want to play what the Beatles played. Most people, when they would play that, they would just count to 8. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's nothing you can make that can't be made. So if you're playing on your own, you could count to 8 and just keep it in common time and it wouldn't matter anyway. It's only if you're playing with a group or if you want to be pedantic and play it exactly as they did. So yeah, really interesting. If the bottom number stays the same, just count one less. And if anyone's interested, the last Beatles lesson I did on Across the Universe, a similar thing happens in that because they start a next section 2 beats before you'd expect them to. So we actually changed the time signature to, I think it's 2/4, just for one measure. And the Beatles did that a few times. It's kind of just like they start bits before they should do, really. Jazz musicians would very rarely do that. I know you've got people like Dave Brubeck and stuff, but standards tended to be multiples of 4. In fact, Louis Armstrong once said that playing music was just counting to 4 over and over, which I quite like. Fran's just saying all she can think of when I play All You Need Is Love is the wedding scene in Love Actually. Yeah, I know what you mean. Classic. Classic. Making me all Christmassy. Fantastic. Now, as I say, if you've got any questions with any of the things we're talking about, or if you've got any burning questions you'd like to ask me about your learning or practicing in the meantime, just stick them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. But what I'll do whilst we're waiting, I think I'll take another question here. So we've got one more. I think this might still be from Shah, where he just asked, do you have any hints or practice suggestions for being able to play chords that are up the fretboard without looking down at the instrument? Now, that can be a really good skill to have. So say you're playing a song. Let's just go back to that example I did with bar chords. And it starts with a bar chord up here for C. Then it comes back to F and maybe G afterwards. So C and F and G. If you've got a uke and you want to join in, that's just a C chord played by taking a B flat. You can either do it like this or 4 B flat up to the 3rd fret. Okay. The only reason that's a C is we've gone B flat, B, C. You can hear it just rising up. So that could be our C chord. And then we'll do an F here. And then a G at the end for twice Now, why would you want to play without looking at the fretboard? And I know it sounds silly, but it's a good question in the first place. Why would we want to do that? And probably the main reason is we might want to be looking at our sheet music for the lyrics or the melody. And obviously, if you're looking down here, by the time you look up again, you might have lost where you are in the music. And we've all done that. I've done it. I'm sure you guys have done it. So being able to play that C, I went wrong there, without looking can be a really good skill to have. Now, there's a couple of things that can help with this. First off, what I will say is that most musicians, including professional musicians, even people like Jake Shimabukuro and James Seal, you will notice they will generally, when they go to bar chords where they're moving up, they often will take a quick glance, because that's why we've got side dots, right? And dots on our fretboard to help us get into the right position. So it is okay to just take a quick glance down, make sure you're on the right fret as you go up, and then you're right back to the sheet music. And I find if I do that quick enough, where it's just a quick glance and then I'm straight back up, I'm fine and I won't lose my place. But if you want to do it without looking, a few things that can help. First of all, think about getting into the shape one step at a time. So say we're doing that C chord up there. Rather than just taking all of your fingers, and again, I'm going to say it, bosh, just dropping them down perfectly in place, which is actually quite tricky. Maybe think about what you could do one step at a time. So if I was playing that chord, for example, I might get my index finger down on the 3rd fret and I can almost feel for it. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Try it yourself. Try not looking, but see if you can feel when you get up. 1, 2, up to that 3rd fret. And remember my advice on bar chords, you want to be as close to that metal fret as possible. You want to be really actually touching it. So you can actually do it. You can feel your way up, which is really good. And then, of course, from there, it's not too much effort then to drop those fingers down and just feel for the strings. So rather than, again, bosh all 3 at the same time, if I think I'm just going up and then put my fingers down. And of course, eventually you'll want to be quicker than that because you want to get there really speedily. But if you practice that slowly... Oh, I went 1 too fast, so see, nobody's perfect. 1, 2, 3. If you practice that a few times, try not looking, you'll find that the more you do it, the easier it will come. Think similarly to other chords. Say I wanted to do this G7 chord up here. This is a really common one because it puts the 5 chord in the key of C. That just means a G7. Don't sweat the theory, don't worry. But it puts you right in the middle of the fretboard, which is really useful for going up the fretboard. So this one's used a lot. And it's quite difficult because you've got to get... Oh, I've just realised I can come into close camera and make it easier. So you've got to get all of these fingers in one go, and it's a really tricky thing to do. So what I would do in that case is think about how to finger the chord one step at a time again. So maybe feel for the 3rd and 4th frets in an F shape. So you kind of feel your way up. You might be able, or just glance down just to get those 2 in place. And then once you're there, as long as you get 2 fingers down, these 2 fingers are almost begging to fall into the right place, just because of the way they work. They don't want to go up here or up here. They just naturally want to fall down roughly here. So if I was practicing going from a C, I might get my F shape in and put those fingers down. Other people like to do it the other way around. Sometimes I'll do it by leading with a finger that's on a string. So sometimes I'll take this little finger down. I'll use that to feel my way up to 5 and then put those fingers down. So in slow motion it will look like this. See how that looks quite comfortable because I do one thing and then I pop my others down. So that's a really good thing to do, as well as to feel your way up one step at a time. And practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect, absolutely. Yeah, no worries, Kev. It's really good to get them in the mind. Try and practice your 1, 4 and 5 chords up there first, Kev. So C, F and G. See if you can practice those. So C here, G7 maybe, and F. That would be a good one to get you up the fretboard because they're super common chords. Okay, let's take another question. This one's from Beach, and Beach asks, working through a course or lesson or learning a piece of music, the chord progression becomes familiar, and I don't have any problems with the changes. But when faced with a new chord progression, like during canopilas, for example, I sometimes mess up, even if the chord shapes are familiar, and especially if a chord that is not frequently used yet, at a different position on the fretboard, or if it's a very quick change. I know you use a clap and count technique, but are there other chord drills and exercises you can recommend to speed up chord knowledge and changes? That's such a great question, Beach. So, the technique that Beach mentions, just out of interest, this I stole from James Hill. I'm not going to take the total credit from this, but it's a really cool technique. So say you want to learn a difficult chord like this G7. What you would do is you would play it once, get all your fingers ready. Then you would take your fingers away, tap your knee, and count the rest of the way to 8. Again, it's easier to show you rather than explain. It'll look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you strum on 1 again. The next time you tap your knee twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on and so forth. The next time, I'll speed up just so you can see how it works. Next time, 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. And you'll find that the more you practice, the closer to 8 you'll be able to get it. You might find you're not able to get back in time on beats 3 or 4 the first few times, and then you'll kind of increase. And it's just a cool way of getting your muscle memory warmed up. So that was what Beach was referring to. So other ways to do it, and I think a really good thing to do, is rather than thinking of chords in isolation, like a G7, I don't know, something tricky like an F minor 7, think about common chord combinations and how they come up in music. And then I like to use the circle of fifths to practice with. Now you'll find this on the internet or in many theory books. It's a circle, and loads of you will know this already probably, but it's a circle where all of the notes, or you can think of them as chords, they're clockwise, they're going up in fifths. So that means G is 5 higher than C. C, D, E, F, G. And then D is 5 higher than G. G, A, B, C, D. And so on and so forth. When it goes the other way, anti-clockwise, it's going up in fourths. C, D, E, F, F, G, A, B flat, and so on and so forth. The reason that's really cool is you can find really common chord progressions. Think about the songs you know in the key of C. Probably the most common chord progression is that 1, 4, 5, isn't it? C, F, and then back to G. And that relationship is the same in any key. So if you think about the chord in the middle being 1, the chord to clockwise from it will be 5, anti-clockwise will be 4. And these are the common chords that come up in any key. So what you could do, I know these are basic at the moment, but they'll get harder as you go around the wheel. You could practice just playing C to F to G and back to C. Those are going to be the common major chords that come up in any key. Then you could go one step around the wheel, and now look, it gets a bit harder. F is in the middle, and B flat will be 4 and C will be 5. So this time we're going to play F, B flat, C, and F. Now the reason I'm doing this, these are the kind of the chords that fit together in songs, so your fingers will get used to playing them. It's a lot better than learning chords in isolation. Now it gets really tricky as I go around further, look, because now B flat's in the middle, so I have B flat, E flat, and F, and back to B flat. And this is how a lot of jazz musicians practice. They'll work their way all the way around the circle of fifths doing that. Now, if you want to involve minor chords, you can do the same thing. You've just got to remember the pattern. So another common pattern in chords is 1, 5, 6, 4. I think, yeah, that's right. 1, 5, 6, 4. Now, that would be C, G, A minor. You don't have to remember this. Just know that A minor is the 6th chord in the key of C. C, D, E, F, G, A minor. Works, it counts out. So we're going to try playing C. You could do it with me now if you want. We're going to play C to G to A minor and F. C, G, A minor and F. And that's like so many chords. That's like so many songs, isn't it? I won't hesitate no more, no more. I cannot wait. I'm yours. Your lipstick stains on the backside of It's a common chord progression. And you might think, wow, I could play C, G, A minor, F really easily. But try taking it round the circle and things get more difficult. Brilliant practice. So in the key of F, all the chords are going to be in the same order. So we're going to go F into D minor. Then, sorry, no, we're not. We're going to go F to C, down to D minor, and back to B flat. So the same pattern, right, that we just played in C, but now in F. So F, C, D minor, and then B flat. Let's do 4, 8 of each. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. C, D minor, and B flat. Now the brilliant thing about this is, as well as being practicing doing common chords, we're also transposing a song. We've just played I'm Yours in C and F. Don't believe me? I'll show you. I'll sing it in F. I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. We could even, just one more example, we'll play it in B flat. So now it would be B flat, F, G minor, and E flat. Okay, let's do that, and then I'll tell you one more thing on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Now, this is really cool, right? This is such an important pattern and key to remember this circle of fifths. Because as well as practicing chord combinations, like I was saying for Beach, this is a brilliant tool for transposing. So if you ever get a song and you think, oh, the chords are really, really tricky, sometimes if you transpose it, play the same chords but in a different key, it's way easier. And you saw that there, right? In the key of B flat, I'm Yours is really hard to play because we've got B flat, which is a bar chord. We've got F, that's right, D minor, that's right. But then we've got E flat, which is slightly awkward. Whereas when we played it in C, it was just C, G, A minor and F, easy peasy chords. So sometimes it will make a song easier by transposing it. Just a little tip there. And of course, the other reason to transpose it is if it's in too high or lower key for you to sing in. So yeah, couple of things there. So I've gone off piste a bit, but hopefully that was quite interesting for you guys. Now we've got another question. These ones are from Pam Rhodes. Thanks, Pam. And she's saying learning styles. She's has a diverse brain and is an absolute magpie. She loves shiny new music and subsequently tends to move on before she's got to grips with a piece. So she's asking, how do I stop being a magpie? And interestingly, Pam's answered her own question a little bit, and that's quite useful for you guys. So she says her current strategy to hold her interests is to complete a specific lesson. So the example she gives is she's been working on my intermediate ukulele course, and she completes a lesson, then practices a new technique for 2 or 3 weeks, then adds other techniques from the course and practices them after a warm-up exercise. That's really good. And then she's also said that she tries to find simple songs to apply the techniques to, which is brilliant. Try not to get distracted. And then she rewards herself by playing through the 3 songs she's trying to get down pat, and then tries to stick to these 3 songs instead of changing to new shiny ones. But she says she has a lengthy Spotify song playlist with the 3 songs she's trying to learn plus ones that she would like to learn. So Pam's brilliant advice to yourself there, amazing. But she does say, yes, she's still a magpie despite all the above. Oh, thanks, Beach. Thank you. This is one of the commonest, most common things in learning. And again, I fell into this trap when I was learning. What we mean by magpie is trying to learn a little bit of everything. We can be a bit greedy, can't we? You know how magpies, they'll pick up bits of shiny gold and something new and they'll take it all back to the nest. And we can be the same. We kind of, we'll learn half a song and then maybe our mind gets bored and we go and learn another half of a song. And we start learning, I'm going to learn claw hammer technique, and we start learning that. And then we get bored with that. So we go to learn the split strum or something. And yeah, hands up. It could be like a comfort meeting for all of us. I'm a magpie. Barbara's a magpie. Pam said she's a magpie. We probably all are to some extent. The only negative thing about being a magpie is it's that classic thing, isn't it? Where sometimes you learn lots of things okay or not very well, as opposed to learning a few things really well. So getting focus into your learning is really, really important. Now, I kind of believe on 2 things. I think you need to be disciplined with yourself and really try and stick to 2 or 3 tunes at a time. I think that's really, really important. And to be honest, Pam already sounds like she's doing all the right things with her playlist, listening to the songs. We've got other magpies, as well as concentrating on them and trying to find simple songs to apply the techniques, all that stuff. It's really good, right? So we want to really concentrate. So there's a couple of ways you could do it to concentrate. First of all is to think sequentially. So I'm going to talk about my own teaching, but this applies to any teacher. So I'm not trying to sell you my stuff. There are loads of good teachers out there. If a teacher has developed a course, so for example, when you go on my website, you see I've got a beginner's course, an intermediate and a next steps. Chances are the teacher, not just me, whoever does it on their website, they've really planned that. So they're taking you sequentially in order. And speaking from experience, my one was planned over 25 years of teaching. I really thought about, well, what do we need to learn and when, and we put it in that order. So one of the ways you can really help yourself is to stick to a course and try not to be distracted. So if you're doing my intermediate course, try and finish that course 1 lesson at a time. Take your time. A lot of people race through courses, and again, I'm not like having a go at anyone. I do it myself. I'm learning mandolin at the moment, so I'm a beginner on mandolin, and I do the same thing, right? And we think that'll do. I just want to go on to the next bit. But it's better. When I wrote my course, I expected people to spend 2 or 3 weeks on each lesson, really. Not the really easy ones like how to tune your ukulele, but when we're looking at pieces of repertoire, spend a good couple of weeks on them at least, get them really good, and then work your way through sequentially. Another example, it doesn't even have to be one of those sequential courses like that. If you're on the blues course, try and go through every lesson 1 at a time, being quite disciplined with yourself to really work on it. Because as teachers, we're quite cunning. Sometimes we're getting you to practice stuff you don't even realise you're doing. Like some of them will have a chord up the fretboard, and then the next one will have 2 or 3 chords. It's things that we've put in to help you. So really try. Oh, thanks, Kev. Really try and be disciplined about following it through. Now, of course, You don't have to be crazy disciplined, right? At the same time, you can go the other way, and there is a warning here. Don't become, this kind of goes back to Sheila's question as well. Don't become so obsessed over one technique that you just get incredibly frustrated. So say you were learning claw hammer, and claw hammer's based on this bum ditty technique, right? Where you do this. This isn't a claw hammer lesson, but I'll just show you. So where you come into the uke, and then you follow it with these little ditties. All that stuff. Now, that takes a lot of time to learn. So maybe if you're really struggling with the bum ditty, just spend a good 10 minutes at the start of your practice just practicing that one technique over and over again. And a good way to do it is to see if you can do a technique whilst you're talking to someone. If you can have a conversation whilst you're doing the technique, or watch telly and still take in what's happening, that means you've got it, you've worked it really well. Now, if you're finding that incredibly difficult to do that technique, give yourself a break from it. So again, like I said with Sheila, you could do that cyclical learning and you could come back to it later on. So you might practice a bit of claw hammer and then do a can a cappella, or just strum a song you really enjoy, just to relax to. So don't get just hammered on one thing, but do concentrate and try and think sequentially, going one bit at a time if you can. It so helps with your learning. One of the things that I do when I'm learning mandolin and guitar, I'm learning some Hawaiian style guitar as well, is that I will follow the course. I'm learning with Jeff's fingerstyle guitar course, for example, at the moment. I'll follow the course through one lesson at a time, but I'll also keep coming back to 2 or 3 songs that I really love and I enjoy. And because I've kept going back to those few songs, I can play them from memory. And that's really lovely because it means you enjoy them on a whole other level, because you're not just sight reading. It means you can perform them to people. If people say, oh, you're learning slap key guitar, give us a tune. The worst thing in the world is then when you sit down, you think, oh, I can't play anything. I can't think of it off the top of my head. So do move on to the next lesson, but maybe go back to 2 or 3 tunes that you really love. And I think I'm going to come back to this later on because there's another question about this. The other thing, which I think is really key, is to have a piece of music that is really easy but you really enjoy, you don't have to think about. So if you want to play your uke, and every time you play your uke, even if you're playing something easy peasy lemon squeezy, you're still practicing and learning all the time, even if it's something you've done a million times, like just playing, you know, Brother is I don't know, somewhere. Every time you play, you're teaching yourself to play in time and rhythm. You might be doing a technique such as chucking. You're thinking about singing whilst you're playing. So even the simplest things are really, really positive. So that is my favourite one. I've been playing uke for yonks and I love doing complex stuff and classical and all that. But sometimes if I'm feeling a bit tired or frustrated, I'll come back to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And it's one of those songs where I just sing it. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. I've forgotten it. What's the next chord? Oh, it just goes back to C. So on and so forth. I just find that one so joyful and relaxing to play when I do actually remember it. So that's a really good thing to do. Have something that you can go back to and really enjoy. That's key as well. I had one more thing to say about that, but I can't remember what it was. But hopefully I'll come back to something with that later on for sure. Karen's just saying she recently decided I can't play fun stuff until I practice 2 scales. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Debonk saying, more of a raven than a magpie. I don't know what a raven is in context, but I'm definitely a raven. I like that. I'll be a crow. How about that? Fantastic. Yeah, Fran's got another good point. Thanks, Fran, for bringing this up as well. Don't forget repetition is incredibly important in your learning. In fact, it's probably the most important thing. This goes right back to the Suzuki technique. The more you repeat something, the more you build up that muscle memory and you develop confidence. So Fran was saying she raced for the intermediate course for the first time, but now she's going back and they make more sense to me. And that's really important. Often I get students that say, I just don't get something. And I explain it again and they say, oh, I still don't quite get it. But I just say, just go back and watch a lesson again. And then after 2 or 3 times, there's like a light bulb and it's like, I get it. And I hadn't given them any new information. Sometimes I do. I'm not like a mean teacher. But sometimes it just takes watching something 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times through to really take it in. I'm the same. I got really deep into jazz music and bebop progressions and stuff, and some of that stuff is so complex, and I'd watch a YouTube video and it'd be like someone speaking to me in, you know, Japanese or a language I don't know, for all it was worth. But after like watching it 4 or 5 times, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, because we're like a sponge and we might take a little bit of water the first time and then a bit more next time. And so it's a really good thing to do. Right, let's have a look. What else have we got? So this is another one here from Pam. It's just saying she struggles to play from memory without sheet music and learning lyrics and singing into that. Now, first thing I would say with this kind of goes back to that technique I was saying earlier about just playing the simple rhythm, then humming, and then adding the lyrics in after. So you can do all that stuff as well. But I also wanted to say, be realistic with yourself in terms of your learning. And I'm really fascinated by this. I'd love to look at the science of it. But I think that in the modern world, because we've got so many distractions, we're kind of always doom scrolling, right? Aren't we, on our phones, or we're watching telly, or we're on the phone, or there's always something, isn't there, going on? And it's quite hard to just totally let that all go and relax. And I've got this theory that because we're kind of so used to being distracted and getting everything in small chunks, that it's harder as human beings for us to memorize things than it used to be. The reason I say that is I'm finding this myself as well. Sometimes I just wonder, am I getting old, right? And that is a genuine thing. As you get older, you remember less. Your memory isn't as good as it used to be. But I've noticed that artists now, when you see them play live, even some really big artists like Elton John was doing it at Glastonbury, I noticed. I've seen Adele do it and she's a lot younger. A lot of artists are having an iPad on stage and having a sneaky look at their lyrics. And I don't remember that like 20 years ago. I know iPads didn't exist, but think there were some technologies which would have allowed them to do that, and they didn't. And I think it's the modern world. Our brains can't cope with it as much. So what I'm trying to get at, as well as taking things in small chunks, is be realistic and easy on yourself. It might be that actually you do need that sheet music there to do a recital or to play to somebody, and that's fine. I prefer to avoid it myself, but sometimes I just have a little prompt on an iPad or on a sheet of paper because I forget a certain section or a lyric. What you don't want to do, if you can avoid it, is to just, you know, kind of, especially if you're performing, just stare at a piece of sheet music, because it turns the audience off, doesn't it? I think one of the things we're guilty of, and I've done this before in ukulele groups, is where you get a ukulele group and everyone sits down and all you can see is about that much of their forehead over the top of their music stands, because what you see is all these music stands. So what I would do is take it in small chunks. So do that technique I said about learning the lyrics. In terms of learning songs and lyrics, don't forget the art of listening. And this is a crucial thing that I tell all my students, and it's so easy to forget. Sometimes we learn a piece of music and we forget to listen to it. Every time you listen to it, whether it be a piece of jazz, classical or pop music, you're taking in the rhythm and the timings and the timbre and all that stuff. So do make sure that listening is part of your practice routine. Have a listen to the song first. And what I do if it's lyrics, I just repeat them to myself throughout the day. Sing in the shower, go on, it's a joyful thing to do. Just repeat small chunks and see if you can remember it. And build it up one section at a time. Now this applies to the lyrics, but this applies to, say, if you're doing a fingerstyle piece as well, you know, and you're trying to remember individual notes. What I would do is break it down into measures or chunks. So I might do the first 2 measures, then I'll do the first 4 measures. Then I won't move on. What I'll do is I'll do the first 6 or 8 measures. But each time I'm adding more measures, I'm going back and practicing the first ones as well. And it it's that cyclical learning again. It kind of re-embeds things. So if you're trying to learn a Bob Dylan song and it has 17 verses, don't try to learn 17 verses at once, because it won't happen. I couldn't do it. Just learn 3 lines, and then 4 lines, and then 5 lines, 6 lines, and then maybe you've got a whole verse, and then you'll go on to learn the second verse. But again, as you're practicing the second verse, start with the first verse, because cyclical learning, it all builds it up. And it's like magic. It's like building a wall brick by brick. We wouldn't build a house without putting the foundations in first. So just think step by step, take it in small chunks. That's really, really key. Sandra Hirsch, I think I've seen Sandra in the comments, has a question. She says she's a beginner and able to play the basic chords like A minor, C, C7, D minor, E minor, F, G, G7, which is that's a good lot of chords already, Sandra, so well done. However, I struggle with keeping the rhythm, especially when there's someone singing. Strumming on my own or with a metronome is fine, but as soon as there are lyrics, and not that I'm singing but another person, it breaks down. So e.g. in your beginner course, if I strum along to Octopus's Garden, I always feel off rhythm. Any tips for that? Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Sandra, and we've all struggled with these things. Oh, thanks, Pam. Thank you. I forgot you're there, Pam. Thank you. We've all struggled with this over the years. I have, and I'm sure the rest of you guys have. I've just made Pam tiny for some reason. There we go. I certainly have. So what I would do with this one is take it one step at a time with the basics, and first of all really get it down confidently without the words. So let's see, what have we got? Octopus's Garden. I like to be safe. A minor under the sea, in an octopus's F and G7 in the shade. So what I would do there is think about it in terms of measures, if you can break it down into chunks. So just strum 4 times per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you struggle with that, bring it back even more to basics and just strum the first chord of each measure. I'd like to be under the sea, in an octopus's garden, in the shade. And then try every beat. I'd like to be under the sea, in an octopus's garden, in the shade. And then if you get that and you feel really confident, then you can start adding the ups and downs, but still count in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as I said, Louis Armstrong, there's this brilliant quote from him, said that playing music is just counting to 4 over and over. And I think those counts are the key bit. It's not just about playing in time and rhythm, it's counting along, and that's key. Because as long as you count along, the lyricist, as long as they're not going off and singing at a ridiculous tempo or something, it will work out, because you're just following that music brick by brick, step by step, measure by measure. So count out loud. So if someone was singing, I'd like to be under the sea, ignore their lyrics and just think 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really key. And then if it's not working and they're singing too fast or going away, it's not you as the musician that's doing it wrong, it's the lyricist. Sometimes people just sing things wrong or go too fast or too slow. But really, your job as a strummer, and this includes even if you're singing yourself, is to first of all be that backing band. On the uke, we're our own drummer, right? We've got a rhythm, and we're our own rhythm player. And then we sing over the top, so we create the melody. So really try and get that down. It's really, really crucial, is to put that down. The other thing is to try and resist, and this is really important because I've seen so many beginners do this. Try and resist getting dragged into strumming on the syllables of the song. I'll show you what I mean. Sometimes people might sing that as, I'd like to be under the sea, in an octopus's garden, in the shade, which obviously then is creating this jolty rhythm. It's hard not to do. Sometimes we just tend to get pulled into what the lyricist does and we try and match them, but just try and like follow your own furrow, follow your own path, ignore that. We don't want to go da 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 da, we want to go da 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 da. So the vocals might be syncopated, but we keep it straight on the ukulele. That's really really important. Karen's just saying she's been playing up the fretboard and finding higher up the tone gets worse. Oh, Karen, I've got that as one of your questions. We're going to come to that in a minute, so don't panic. And Danny was just asking how to find the strumming pattern or chords to a song. So chords, you've got to work out the key first, Danny. So work out what chords the song feels settled on, and that will give you the key. So if I was doing that Octopus's Garden, what chord, if I stop on the G, it doesn't feel finished. What chord does everything feel resolved to? It's that C chord, so we know we're in the key of C. And then you can start to think, what are the common chords that come up in any key? You can bring on in the good old circle of fifths again. And it tends to be the 1 and 4 and the 5 chords, so that's the chords either side of F and G. And then the next most common chords will be the minor chords, which run underneath those. In the key of C, that'll be D minor, A minor, and E minor. If you start there, you'll find you'll be able to find the chords really nicely. If you watch my uke theory course, Danny, and a few other live lessons that I've done on it as well, learning chord personalities can be really important. And we do this on my Canna Capilla on a Monday as well. If you know what personality a chord has, like the 1 chord feels resolved, the 5 chord is the tension, it's the cliffhanger chord. 2 chord is melancholy, 3 chord is heartbreak. You can start to work out the chords yourself by how they sound, which is really, really super empowering. In terms of strum patterns, what I like to do is start with the basics first and walk up from there. Now, any song, you can pretty much get a strum pattern just by doing down strums first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in Octopus's Garden. And then all you need to do is add in extra upstrokes. So you're already going down, so to touch on the way up is easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? You, instead of down, 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 you could have down, down, up, down, down. Sometimes so many different patterns work. You could go down, 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 up. You can see what fits. Sometimes it might be nice to leave a break. Down, rest, down, down, up, down, rest, down, down. can take a while to experiment to find what strum pattern works best, but start simple and build up from there. If you just start with down strums, you'll get it right. And you guys will know from my YouTube and my courses, I do this big thing where I'm not a big fan of strum patterns. I think most songs, if you're playing really well, you want to alter what you do during the song anyway. So you might do one thing in the verse and a different thing in the chorus is really important. Think of things in terms of rhythms rather than strum patterns, because otherwise everything can sound the same and get a little bit stale. So that's another thing to think about. And something played simply with a really good timing sounds better than something played with a complex pattern but played out of time. So take something like Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me. Now I love it when people play that song when they just do simple jazz comping. That just means all down strums. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. How simple is that? I'm basically just strumming down, but it sounds really good because it allows the vocals to come through. So feel free to just simplify things. I think that's a really good thing. Yeah, Sandra, I've done the syllable thing as well. So just try and really lock in. Almost ignore that. As I say, plough your own furrow. Find that as well. Students want to catch a fish, says Shell, play a favourite song, whereas teachers want to teach them how to fish, master a technique. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And that's why you don't have to get every song perfect, because a lot of the songs that I give you and other teachers, really they're just a means to an end. They're trying to get you to practice a certain technique or skill, which then you can use on any song. So that's a good one. I like that, Shell. Okay, let's have another one then. So Karen's got a few questions. Her first question was, what's your I think we've already covered this. What's your method for memorising a piece of music? So for Karen, she likes to memorise chunks, not necessarily with the bars in order. Commit to the hard parts to memory first, and make sure she's not reinforcing incorrect chords. So listening to someone play into the song or listening to the original. So I completely agree with you, Karen, on all those things, actually. And it is absolutely fine to learn piece of music out of order. So you could do one section, particularly if it's a hard section, just concentrate on that first and then come back to it. That's absolutely fine, as long as eventually then you connect it all back to it like a jigsaw and play it in time. And the other thing is, a lot of people concentrate on just learning a hard section, but they kind of forget about joining that together with the easy sections. Because sometimes doing the hard bit is one thing, but doing the easy bit and then transitioning into the hard bit and transitioning out of the hard bit can be really difficult as well. So make sure you practice it in context as well. Really, really important. Dan's just saying relative chord knowledge, please. So relative chords, do you mean the like the minor chords on the circle of fifths, Danny? I wasn't quite sure, because every major key has a relative minor key with all the same chords in. Oh, how to find a song how to solo to a song. So in terms of soloing, what you want to do is you want to probably start with the pentatonic scales, because those are 5 notes which sound great with any chord. So if you want to start a simple soloing, say you're doing Octopus's Garden. I seem to be stuck with that. It's just in my head, and that's absolutely fine. I love it. It's a great Ringo song. Say you're in that one and you're in the key of C. I would first of all use the C major pentatonic, because that one works really well with any song that's in the key of C. So that would be C, D on the 2nd fret, open E, G on the 3rd fret, open A, and the high C. And then you compare that together. You compare that with the relative minor. So the relative minor on the circle of fifths is the one on the inside. So the relative minor of C major is A minor. So you can also play the A minor pentatonic, which is all the same notes starting from A. And on your uke, that's really cool because it's your open A string, 3rd fret where you have a dot. On most ukes, some don't. 5th fret, dot, 7th fret dot, 10th fret dot, see the pattern? 12th fret dot. So those are really good ones to solo with. Danny, if you're interested on my Next Steps course, and also on the blues and jazz course, I've got a couple of lessons on how to solo, and I go into all the different options, so not just pentatonics but chord tones and full major and minor scales and blues scales and things like that. So well worth looking into if you get a chance with that. And then then come up. Rebecca Rebecca Myers. Hi Rebecca. Had the same question, just tips on memorising songs. So hopefully we've covered that now. But any other questions, do just let me know. Karen was also asking, so this is Karen Morrow, our own brilliant admin, was asking what's the best way to get good tone in the upper frets. It feels that the higher the string, or should she say the shorter the string, as she says, the harder it is to get a nice sounding tone. Of course, it will depend on the uke as well. I know exactly what Karen means, so you might find that you're getting a really nice tone playing notes down here. But you might find that when you play up the fretboard, on some ukes it can start to sound a little bit tinny and not quite have the as nice a tone as down here. Now the reason for, there are ways to combat that, and I'm going to show you, Karen. Part of the reason is when you strum or pick down here, the string is vibrating along its course, and when you're picking down this end, there's a lot of string to vibrate, isn't there? You've got all of this, and really when we put our finger down, we're kind of stopping the string vibrating at the point we pick. So here we've got a gap of, what is it, from there to there that's vibrating. Okay. The whole string vibrates, but as soon as you put your finger back down, you're stopping it, obviously. So one of the things you can do is, as you go up the fretboard, move your thumb back. It means you're picking the string more in the middle, and it creates a more even vibration. So if I'm playing a C note, I might pick roughly here. And then when I move up, I'll drop my thumb further back. And it's really, really clever, because what we're doing is it creates more string to vibrate, and it means that you're picking the middle part of the string. It sounds better. And if you don't believe me, watch this. It's like magic, right? I'll play the same notes. Now, if I do that again, now I'm not sure how well that picks up on my mic, but to my ears, the chords, the notes up here, sound a lot stronger than when I leave my finger here. Yeah, you can really hear that. So that's a really important thing when you're soloing or strumming, whatever it is, as you go up the fretboard. Try moving your hand back in position from towards the fretboard end towards the bridge, basically. So that's one thing to do. The other thing is to use legato techniques, which is things like vibrato and bends. Vibrato is really good for massaging a note. A lot of people think vibrato just makes a wobbly sound, like when you do this. But that's not really what vibrato is about. It does create a little bit of a wobble, but it also lengthens the note. It dies quicker when you don't do it, as opposed to when you do it. I'm not even sure totally on the science behind this, but it does work. You can, by adding vibrato, it lengthens the note and it sweetens it a bit as well. And that's really important. By adding that little wobble, it makes it not so clearly defined. So if you find your intonation isn't that great as you go up the fretboard, this uke's got really nice intonation because it's a lovely uke made by Phil Davidson. But some ukes, as you go up, they sound a bit sharp or flat. And just by adding a wee bit more vibrato, or sometimes even bending slightly, you can correct it and you can get a cleaner note, which is really, really nice. Oh yeah, I remember you were asking about this before, Karen. I never got round to showing you. So Karen's just saying how to vibrato on a chord. This is quite a tough technique on a chord. So just on a note, ever so quickly when you're doing vibrato, the main tip for vibrato on a note is to take the thumb off the back. I'm really exaggerating it there. Okay, because when we take the thumb off the back, we can wobble the whole arm. Okay, try and keep the finger in the middle of the fret. Try not to make it go side to side. A lot of people do this. It wants to stay where it is, and the arm wobbles, which creates a really nice, lovely vibrato. Straight wrist again. Now, if I put my thumb on the back, it's really hard to wobble, right? Because the thumb's kind of stopping it. It's just the mechanics. So try and take it off the back. Now, you can do the vibrato on a chord, but I tend to do the same thing. If your thumb's on the back, it's quite hard to do. So I might put my thumb back on to start it. But really, I'll tend to lift it off if I'm going to vibrato. And it does sound really nice on chords. If you look at Jake Shimabukuro, he'll often vibrato a chord. And Kalei Gaimal, who's the guy, one of the guys from the ukulele site in Hawaii. You've probably seen him doing all the demos with Corey Fujimoto. They're brilliant players. And Kalei loves to do this chord vibrato. And the main thing is to press quite firmly with the fingers that you're doing the chord vibrato on. And just allow that thumb to come off the back a bit, just enough that it's not grabbing. And then a little wobble from the bottom of the arm. Don't try to do too much. Too much, you're going to kind of move out of the fret and it's not going to sound that nice. All right. On a C chord, it's just the same as a normal one because you can only vibrato that one part. But exactly the same process. A bit hard with the F because you're right up against the nut. But same process, just a little shake. And it especially sounds nice when you're doing chords up here with a little wobble, which is really nice. So hopefully that helps. That's one of my favourite techniques, that, Karen. Now, a lot of people ask me when they're doing the course why I'm wobbling my hand about, because me being a naughty teacher hadn't explained, but it's a really, really good thing to do. And then Karen's just saying pull-offs from D to C on the A string. Easier to do when pulling off to an open string. Yeah, that is true, yeah, because you could put a bit more force into it. So with pull-offs, there's a couple of things that can help with that. A pull-off is when you go from a note that's higher to a note that's below, but you only pick once. The second note sounds just from the finger coming off. Now, the main thing is, obviously, you've got to get this one ready first. Sometimes people will try and do that, but you want to have this one ready first, the lower note. Start from the upper note. Pick reasonably forcefully, and then as you come off, just lift that finger up and away. Try not to push it. Sometimes people go too quickly because they're trying to get it to ring out, but allow that first note to ring out if required, and then lift up. Now, if you want to really make the pull-off sound really strong, another thing you can do is you don't even have to pick. You can just, if you drag the string down as your finger comes off, you can add an extra bit of force to it. See how I'm doing that? So I'm just picking, and then I'm actually almost picking the string with this finger. So that's the way I tend to do it for pull-offs. With hammer-ons, the opposite. It's about the courage of your convictions. A lot of people, they'll come down and they'll be too polite, and it will kill it like that. You've got to imagine this is a hammer. Whoops. Still allow that first note to ring out. but after it does, come down firm and fast. I kind of picture my old tennis coach at this point. He used to say, hit through the ball. And it's the same with hammer-ons. Push through the string right down to the wood, and that will get it to ring out really nice and clear, which is great. Karen had a few more, which was interesting. She was asking about some techniques for kind of warming up and for lifting the correct fingers. If you've ever been doing a chord melody, it's really important. So you know you might be doing a chord melody. And what I was doing there is I'm making certain notes ring out by lifting up fingers. So I have to lift that one up to get the E note and then put it back down. And then this one to get that note. Now that can be quite tricky because sometimes your brain, it sends the wrong signal and you lift the wrong finger up and it can drive you mad. It's happened to me many, many, many times. So a couple of really nice exercises to help with that. And these are really nice to do. If say you want to practice, but you're with your partner or dog is going crazy or neighbours are complaining and you just want to do some quiet practice, or maybe even you're on a train or something, you can still do this silently, which is really cool. What you want to do is put all 4 fingers on the A string, 1 fret at a time. Doesn't massively matter at this point whether they're towards the left or right of the fret, because it's quite hard to get all 4 of them to sit perfectly next to the frets. And what you're going to do is you're going to practice moving 1 finger up a time and then the other fingers onto the next string. So I might do my index finger like that, and then these 3. And I might then take them up to the top, and I might do it the same in reverse perhaps. So I'll see that one was playing up then. And it's hard, and it looks, that these two are finding it really hard to kind of go at the same time. But it really helps with your coordination. And you can do it in various combinations. One of my favourites, this is really hard, is try and do those 2 first, and then I'm really having to think about it, those 2 next, and then these 2 again, and then these 2 follow up. Oh, it's really hard, right? I'm really having to think, but that's great because it's really challenging me. It's a really tough thing to do, and it kind of teaches you muscle memory, but also coordination with the fingers, which is really, really good thing to do, and it helps with your chord melody playing. I used to do that a lot when I was just like travelling and I just had my little soprano. It's quite a cool little trick to do. The other one, which is really nice and easy, is this works as a warm-up as well, is just doing the spider where you put 1 finger down on the string as you go and trying to get as clean as possible. If you get this sound, it's because your finger's gone too far to the left and it wants to be right up against that metal fret. You could do it in reverse. Lovely way to warm up and practice the fingers. So, interestingly, Barbara, there's some science to this, which is kind of interesting. I'm trying to remember which fingers it is, but someone taught me this. I think it might have been my doctor. I can't remember who it was. But in your hand, and you guys might already know this, but I was daft. I didn't realise this was a thing. I always presumed that every finger had its own kind of ligament that moved it. Is it ligament? Whatever it's called, the thing that mechanically makes your fingers move down. But apparently, I didn't realise your thumb has its own, your index finger has its own, and this finger has its own, I believe, but these 2 don't. Either that or it's these 2 don't. I can never remember which it is. But 2 of your fingers share the same ligament, and you can do it by testing. I don't know if I can show you this, but if you put your fingers like flat on your uke like that, you'll find that you can lift off that one fine, that one fine, that one fine, but these 2, if you try and lift them off without the other one coming off, it's really hard, and that's because they share a ligament. So it's just interesting. There is some actual science behind why that's really difficult, and the more you can train yourself, the better. Oh, there we go. I knew someone would know. Karen saying it's the middle and the forefingers are connected. So there you go. Cool. So it's science. It's not just it being really hard. So that's good. Just one last exercise, which can be really good. A lot of my students, they say one of the hardest things is stretching up to chords. So when we do chord melody, I quite often use this chord. It's a G chord with this high D. And that's quite a big stretch. You might have noticed I've got quite small hands for, even though I play a tenor. I just like the tone and the feel of tenor ukuleles. But that can be quite difficult for me. So what you can do to practice that one, this is one of my favourites. It's a bit like the spider one I was just showing. You reach up, and the first time you hit the 4th fret of your little finger. The next time, see if you can reach the 5th. And if you're really stretchy, you may even be able to reach that 6th. But the important thing is you're not allowed to move these, otherwise it's really easy, right? So, and then. And again, you can do that on all the strings. I can just do that one. The other thing you can do then is try it with other fingers. And that's a really great exercise. You go through one string at a time using all the fingers. It practices, it kind of it allows the practice of the stretching, which can be really, really good. Oh, and apparently it's the middle and ring finger, Karen says, for the ligaments. That's all right. It doesn't matter. That's brilliant. No worries. Oh, thanks, David. Thank you. Good luck with your appointment, and I very much look forward to seeing you on the cruise. I can't wait. We were doing some check-ins on our cabins earlier, so we're getting very, very excited. This time next week, we'll be halfway across the Atlantic. See you there, mate. Looking forward to it. Okay, I think that's most of the questions that I had today. So that actually, I did manage to keep talking for quite a long time, didn't I? It's been an hour and a half of me just talking at you. I will stay around just to see if we've got any other questions, and I'm more than happy to stay a bit and answer those. If you're a member of my website, and most of you are, which is absolutely fantastic, mattsteadukulele.com, don't forget this is a key aspect of your subscription. You can email me anytime. I try and get back to you super quick in a day. Sometimes it can take up to a week if I'm like crazy busy. But you guys have a priority email address, so I tackle your emails before any others. So if you've got any questions with your learning, a particular piece you're on, or a technique, just ping me an email and I can reply. And you can even request for me to send you a video. Now, we're not like, I'm not being all fancy pants with technology. I mean, literally just say, Matt, can you send me a video? And I will. So if you're stuck in a technique and you think, oh, I can't quite get it. I can't remember who it was that was asking. It might be one of you guys that was asking about Hawaiian D7 and the picture of the thumb. So I actually took a picture of it to show where my thumb sits. It might be a technique, and it really helps just to see a little video of me playing the technique. So I'm here for you guys. So use that as much as you like. It's absolutely fine. That's part of your subscription. And likewise, if you want to send me any videos of yourself doing any of your repertoire or techniques, and you want me to kind of send you some tips or help or some corrections, whatever it is, ping those over as well. It's all part of your subscription. So, and if you're not subscribed, it's £10 a month. mattsteadukulele.com, and you get 10 courses. I do all the sell, 10 courses, all the worksheets for the live lessons, You get the Ask Matt video submissions, over 100 arrangements. In fact, I think there's nearer 200 now. There's over 100 live lessons you can go back and watch. We've done over 100 canacapelas that are all archived and you can go back and watch. So it's all on there, mattsteadukulele.com. I want to thank you all for your support. You guys basically allow me to do what I do, create content, and I love it. It's my favourite thing. So thank you for supporting me and allowing me to do this. It means a lot. What else was I going to say? I can't quite remember now. Oh, but Beach is saying, luckily, because of years of bass, he can reach from the 1st to the 8th fret. Oh, amazing. I love it. I love it. I find it really tricky. I really do, because of my small hands. So there's some Jake chords where he does this one, which is this G to this G. And I find that really tricky, but it's just doable. But some ukulele players, they've got these big stretchy hands, which is great. Oh, thanks, Linda. Vibes Only was just asking if I have any tips for someone learning right-handed ukulele whilst being left-handed. Oh, that's a great question. It can be quite a tricky one in terms of that. Oh, and I did have a question. Danny was asking, he wasn't sure on the solo stuff. Danny, just ping me an email and I'll send you a link to the videos that I did on it. That'll be the easiest thing if you want to have a go at soloing. Just ping me an email and I'll send you something in reply. It's not a problem at all. Oh, no worries. Pam, thank you. Yeah, tips for learning right-handed uke. I would, in the best world possible, if you're able to, I would restring. And I know it sounds like a pain, but on most ukes, it's not too bad. As long as there's not a really big slot here for a low G, you can literally just swap your G string for your A string and your E string for the C string. The reason I recommend that for left-handers to do is 2 reasons. First off, when you're strumming, it's going to be your dominant hand, and when we play the ukulele, our dominant hand tends to be the one that strums and picks, because it has all sorts of clever techniques with things like triplets and finger picking. So that really helps if that's your dominant hand. But the other thing is, when you do it this way, I can't quite get it. Where is it? There it is. When you do it this way, you can mirror the chord diagrams. So like, you know how a right-handed F looks like this? When you restring your left-handed F, it looks the same, but in a mirror. G7 would look like, find it difficult to think about, yeah, would look like that, which is an exact mirror image of a G7 that we do right-handed. So if you can, I would recommend restringing left-handed. It will make it so much easier for you, for sure. And there are some good resources out there now for left-handed stuff. I think Uke Buddy has all your chords that you can flip over into left-handed. So that's the thing that I would do for sure. It makes it a lot easier. Fran, I've been meaning to do that for ages. I do agree, that makes more sense. On the website, if you go to my archives, just because of the way I've built the website, it goes from the oldest one and then I scroll down and add the newest one. I have been meaning to flip it, Fran, but it's just going to take me ages because I've got to do hundreds of them one at a time. But it is a good suggestion and it's something I've thought about. I will try and do it at some point. Likewise, because there are so many arrangements now on the tabs and resources. If you remember and you haven't checked it out, if you go to the website and click Learn, where all the courses come up, right at the bottom it says tabs and resources, and you can click on that and it will have hundreds of songs and pieces of tablature that you can play. And the other thing, Fran, that I want to do is I want to put those in alphabetical order. I have been meaning to do it, it's just getting round to it, you know what it's like, but eventually I will do that. So yeah, it is a good suggestion for sure. I'm always happy to take suggestions. I'm not lazy, I just haven't got time, I promise. I will get round to it eventually. Okay, any other questions? I'm still here for a bit, just in case there are any more coming through. Don't forget that I'm away next week, but I am here on Monday, so I will be doing the regular Canacapella on Monday, where we're going to look at songs to do with flowers. So we're going to do Where Have All the Flowers Gone, Flowers in the Window by Travis and things like that. So yeah, really cool. So join me this Monday if you can. That's all about playing by ear, which is really fun. If you can like the YouTube video, the whole global one, that would really help the algorithms pick me up. And as I always say, yeah, I'd definitely try it. And as I always say, the best way to help me out, guys, is to either join my website if you want to support the channel, or if you could just spread word of mouth. Tell people you're enjoying it if you are. If you're not enjoying it, don't tell them. All right, so thank you. Really appreciate it. Oh, thanks, Kev. We need to get together for a beer or something soon. It's been way too long. Let's do that. If you can get over our way, let's get back together. Kev builds some really nice ukuleles if anyone's interested. Kevin Molcock ukuleles. They're really cool. So I was just going to say, if you're not able to join me this year and you want to come along next time, we've got the flyer for the new ukulele cruise for next year. So next year it's going from Fort Lauderdale to St. Kitts, Antigua, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic, and back to Fort Lauderdale, a really nice set of islands. And I'll be teaching you all the way on the sea days. And yeah, we're going to have loads of fun. We're going to have canopilas. We're going to do loads of lessons, all sorts of stuff at all levels. So I cannot wait. So we're on this year's cruise next week. That's why we've only got one more canopila and then a break. And that's why the next live lesson isn't for a little while. But don't worry, that's only a couple of weeks. And then I will be back, and we'll be back to it with loads more learning, loads more lessons. And the next live lesson will be 19th of March, 3:30. And we're going to look at Beautiful Night and Day by Cole Porter, which is one of my favourite songs of all time. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that loads. If this is your first time on one of my live lessons, we hold these every fortnight. I'm away for the next one, but generally every fortnight. And we learn either a technique or a piece of music. Often we'll do a really nice piece of repertoire, and I'll talk you through it. So if you want to come and join in, please do. I'm here every other Wednesday at 3:30, and then Mondays is our canopila, where we just play along live and you learn some songs, which is a whole heap of fun. Yeah, it was great questions. Thanks, everyone. I was a bit nervous when I agreed to do this. When I decided to do this in the first place, I thought, oh, what if no one sends me their questions and I've just got to talk rubbish for an hour and a half? But you guys have been amazing. Thank you for all the brilliant questions and all the brilliant comments. Fantastic as always. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, do have a look at the material that I sent out to members as well for this one. So you've got all of these good tips here for learning, making it accessible, building a routine and stuff, and some really good ways to structure your learning. Any questions on any of that, just give me a shout. There are a couple of questions that I didn't get round to just because they're on very specific things. I think, Karen, you sent one about a particular part of a piece of music. I'll get back to you personally on that one. Just remind me, and I'll get back to you with a little video or something for that one. All right, then, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. Happy uking. Don't be a magpie. Keep the practicing up, small chunks, and go easy on yourself. Enjoy it. That's the most important thing. You take care, everyone, and I'll see you on Monday, and I'll back in March for live lessons after that. Take care and much love. Bye.